And hello, this is being presented live for you on the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you, 2025. This is what would be the weekly roundup, as sort of just off script version of this one. We're having some we'll say issues with things behind the scenes for the Conversation Project and things you might have heard. So we're going to do some change up going forward. Right now, being presented 8:12 Central Time on Sunday morning. So we're assuming no one's watching this live. I'm pretty much have no idea no watching this live. We'll see what happens, and we'll kind of manage it going forward for what's going on as no one watches the lives, either live to tape in morning times at a big stead for the live tapes or the live ones that we kind of lately to get the news in here. But we still get a lot of responses, a lot of things going on. Been some dips back and forth. So this is a chance. So I have a free Sunday, if you will, to sort of kind of go into what's going on and do a little riffing on the things we do for the talks that we have for the week. We will go over some stories. I basically are going to go over day by day what we had last week and see how long it goes. Talk about the stories that we teased and a couple stories inside of that day that we talked about there, and which is going to be no real rhyme or reason going forward. We're just going to get some things off and go back and forth. This is essentially a way so I can make sure I did get something in done because I did not do any hot takes, any things. Yesterday, on the Saturday before, on the 3rd of May, it turned into an impromptu family day. We had a couple things happening. We did some things. It was locally in Little Rock. They had the Cure Walk, which has replaced the Komen thing here. That was sponsored by the hospital where my wife works. She is a going on 6-year cancer survivor for breast cancer. And so we participated in that. Myself, the little one did that. And then we spent a little time throughout the day doing some other things, trying to find a comic book store for comic book day. They're all in the other county. So it's just what happened. And, going to the mall, doing some things, having some fun as a family. Week before, it was all based on the little one and her birthday, big milestone birthday we had for her. And so we basically the whole day was all about her, to include essentially 48 hours of sleepovers with teenagers. That was, better than you expected because I love the kid. I love the kids that hang out with her. That's great. But yeah, it was a lot of teenage estrogen and young energy running around for a couple of days. Took a little recovery for that one. Now this weekend is kind of, or this Sunday is kind of open where nothing's really happening. Things need to be done, but we're going to go ahead and go through. I didn't get the time last week to write up a proper a theme for Roundup. Today, not even close. So we're just going to have some fun riffing this. And if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, don't let me know. It's just going to happen. I'm not going to cut this up. I'm not going to do anything major with it. Just going to leave it out there and see if anybody's going to watch I suppose 45, 50 minutes that it takes to do these things. It takes a long time to get through 12 stories, even in a short recap and the extra stuff. I also don't have any of the actual promos or the sponsor stuff thing, but I will repeat a couple things about Ground News, who do it every weekend. And this is a chance so I can actually get a chance to thank my sponsors, my partners, my folks who've actually signed up for monthly support, and maybe see if someone else wants to join in on the fun if they're up to that one. That's on you. You see them scrolling on the bottom. Those are the $5 support folks: Harold Braxton, Kobe Green, and Eldon Kidd. We also have a $1 person there as well. We'll bring her up in a bit. Now, let's go on to essentially some news stories. Let's go into news stories first. I'm going into details on how the week has gone. Not so much a bad week, as we're getting into what I guess is spring, essentially, although the weather doesn't seem to cooperate. It's a fairly coolish day for May the 4th day, and a fairly cool day yesterday. The heat's not coming in, but it's in and out, back and forth, as it tends to do if it wants to. So starting off on Monday, I don't have graphics. I don't have anything really special. Monday, of course, was the 28th of April, rolling out of April, where we teased Mr. Relevant, George Santos, and Sinners coming in from the weekend. It was a tease for that, but it actually was a chance to talk about Shadir Sanders, who was not Mr. Relevant. He was very relevant this past weekend, or the past weekend, as he was expected to go maybe number 3 in an NFL draft, and he ended up going 144 in the 5th round on the 3rd day of the draft. And this is something that turned into an even bigger thing going forward, because as people want to keep talking about it, we talked later on, and we'll talk about it now, about the prank pulled on him by the son of the coach of the Falcons, defensive coach Falcons, who pulled his information from an iPad that his dad had sitting on the table and decided to prank call him and say that he was a GM from the Saints and was going to draft him, while there was a live feed watching Shadir Sanders and, of course, People TV watching to see what was going to happen. That did not play out very well to all, as Falcons and the coach were fined. And I'm sure that kid got what would back in my day be the whooping of his lifetime, even though he's 21 years old. That whooping was definitely due to him. Now, the Sanders saga turned into drama that probably should not have been drama. The biggest issue that people basically are rounding it up to be, basically how people are putting in the simple terms, is that Shadur Sanders and, of course, Deion Sanders, his father, don't play by the rules, or at least don't play by your particular rules. They play by their own rules, by their own conditions. Shadur Sanders having issues with IRS problems, like going for bankruptcies and having cars and stuff like that, because he is who he is and had the opportunity, may be an issue. But someone with that much clout, someone with that much sway going into what is essentially, I'm going to say it like this, a slave trade that is a sports league, can be a problem for someone that may not believe, you may not believe is going to actually follow along with what's going to happen. Now, someone like Arch Manning, hey, he's got pedigree. He's got a lot going on there. Someone from the Cowboys lineage, those guys got with pedigree. Somebody who's got a name behind them that's a big name, that you think, oh, he's a white guy. He's just going to fall in line and do what goes along because he's going to go along with the plantation mentality that is a sports league. Shadur Sanders doesn't necessarily have to, may not even want to, but if he wants to play football, he's got to be drafted by a team and go wherever. So many people are saying that Sanders and his sort of swagger may not play well with the bosses and the owners in the league. We won't know until he actually gets a chance to play. He has a chance to play, but he has to fight for that spot because he went drafted by the Cleveland Browns, who had 3 other fairly good serviceable 4 quarterbacks and a draft pick as a quarterback ahead of him. So we'll have to see exactly how well we're going to do for him going forward. But that's basically one of the biggest things. And it was Monday, so it was early on to get into that sort of drama, if you will. We'll see how that plays going forward for that deal going forward. It is what it is. As I said, I don't have any notes, don't have anything that's really going for me, and I'm trying to start my Bluetooth coffee mug at the same time. My beautiful wife got this one for Christmas, and it's perfect. It's not the largest mug, but it does actually keep the mug warm, keep the coffee warm the whole time. So I go through the fuss of doing that one. Another Monday story coming about from the Pope's funeral and the meeting, the knees to knees, nose to nose meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky at the Pope's funeral, is that Trump actually admitted that Putin may be tapping him along after the meeting. Putin may actually just be sort of stringing him along and kind of making things go forward just because he can. Maybe he doesn't actually want peace right now. Maybe he doesn't want peace at all. Maybe he wants something else. He is still, that's Donald Trump, saying that Putin is, because Trump's involved, not just taking over all of Ukraine just because he's there. So he's taking, that credit. But it is what's happening going forward. And he's saying that maybe Putin's not really playing well. On top of that, later on in the week, we had essentially from Marco Rubio and other leaders, other folks saying that in some point in time, the Trump administration, the U.S. has to move away from what's going forward with talks for peace. Because if they don't really want it, why are we doing all this work? Which is a good thing. If we were brokering peace between 2 actual nations, 2 actual pieces that wanted to have peace, it'd be pretty easy to talk about, pretty easy to see. But if you're doing something where one just wants to be left alone and the other one really just wants to take over the world and is using one place as a proxy, you see where the issues may lie. So we're going to see if this one plays out at all going forward. But Trump not finally admits that maybe Putin is playing him and going forward. We also talked about the release of the video from the wife of bassist of Weezer, where she was on her yard carrying a gun and was shot by police. What happened was, and it really is bringing a lot of conversation, a lot of you in the comments right now for the clip for this, we put out this one was for Julian Lauren, who is the wife of bassist of Weezer, Scott Schreiner. She was at home, and apparently what was happening was there was a search for a person in the neighborhood, a carjacker, a robber, someone was going through, and police were running through the neighborhoods looking for this person. The incident happening. There were helicopters in the sky. They were all over, just like an Ice Cube video, walking through looking for somebody in the backyard of people running through, and with people walking around with guns wandering into people's yards. Lauren walked out with her gun, which is illegal, and her gun in her property, to confront what the hell was going on. In the issue, in the melee, in the back and forth, she was shot. She is doing fine. She's recovering. But from all practical purposes of people who have seen some pictures, seen some video, no, I don't play the video. I just not do that. Stop complaining. Just stop being jerks and go along with it. It just seems like a person with the right to carry a firearm came out to their yard. The people running through were police officers and did not quite identify themselves, or just in a fussy and a tizzy, and it just rambled back and forth, and it happened. We will see more about how this thing will play on going forward, but it is what it is, and it's something that you guys can continue to comment into in the comments here or in the comments on the clip. We have a clip of that one in our library. So make sure you sit there and comment that one. Most people that commented that one or sent emails on that one basically said, seems like a person who had a right to carry a firearm stepping out to protect their property and getting shot by police, because that's exactly what happened. Is it a bit more detailed than that? It's always more detailed than that. There's always more than that, but we will see how that one plays out. Moving on to Tuesday's stories, some stories that we had for Tuesday to go to. And bear with me as I am just literally opening up the Word doc, blowing it up so I can read a little bit better, and going through 3 stories. On Tuesday, we teased sanctuary cities, ceasefires, and Taylor Swift, which technically wasn't Taylor Swift, but we'll get to that one in just a bit. Now, okay, so the biggest story of the day, that was the big Trump thing, because Trump does big things every day, was the list of a public list to be published about sanctuary cities and states. This is an official list that somebody in the government had to basically write up and put on a wall, a corkboard on a website someplace, listing all the cities who actually defy the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, actually push back on actual enforcement of basically ICE type things from the government on those types of things, on enforcing immigration issues. Jurisdictions could face a loss of federal funding if they failed to align with federal immigration laws, which is the big thing there. Donald Trump has threatened to pull the funding for sanctuary cities. It's his thing. Pull the funding for blue states who just don't like Donald Trump, don't follow along with what's going on. When in the midst of all the Doge cuts and the slashes they've had going forward, which, as I live in a red state that needs a lot of stuff, ends up cutting funding for the red states that really require these things because they are more of the poorer states. However, he's cutting funding for other folks or other things that are going through things. This is where it's going with this one. The move is part of a broader immigration crackdown, the large SWAT on immigration. Immigration seems to be the last thing that people really are agreeing with, even though more people are starting to say is going a bit too far in what he's actually doing. So along with that, we have a Commanders. We're going to go big on this one. Washington Commanders are getting a new stadium, new RFK, news on top of the RFK site. They're going to a new stadium there. It's going to cost $4 billion. The Commanders will pay about 3 of it, so there are 2.5 of it. The taxpayers will pay about 1.5 of it, something like that, being split up there. A 65,000 seats dome stadium. Also in that area will be housing, green spaces, and a sports complex to be used by the public, if you will. The break ground on this one in 2030, so it's going to be a while till it's being seen. Of course, the Washington Redskins played there from 61 to 96. So we'll see what happens as they go back into DC and not outside of the district for the first time in 30 years, how that works out for them. It's going to be a big deal for folks who are fans of the team. And of course, there'll be the bringing up about the name again, Redskins versus Commanders, because it comes up every time something happens. But you will see something happen going forward on this one going forward. The biggest issue is this one is, as expected, taxpayer funds. Now, it's not fully funded by taxpayers, but a big chunk of that, a good 35% of it at least will be taxpayer funded. But the reasoning is the surrounding area will be used for public housing or better housing and for other things for the public to use. So it's more than just the stadium and a sports complex and a workout facility. It's not like a Jerry Jones thing out in the middle of nowhere where you can put anything you want to because Jerry Jones has $1 billion. This is people of DC, people of the district, and some other taxpayers going through, paying for this being in their district. Hopefully bring up revenue for the venue. You can have concerts, things like that, and everything goes along with it. And this is one that, well, we're not going to talk about. Taylor Swift actually got mocked by Donald Trump when the Eagles came to visit at the White House for their win, and basically Taylor Swift mocked the Chiefs, or Trump mocked the Chiefs, Taylor Swift, stuff like that. Some guys didn't show up as expected. But we're going to talk about this other story, which was really, really disturbing. During a protest for the Jewish men were having, that was basically a protest against Palestinian protesters, if you will. A Brooklyn woman was in the area. She was chased, she was kicked, she was spat upon by a mob of Jewish Orthodox men who mistook her for a protester during a speech by Israeli far-right security minister. In a speech that is by Israelis, thought that she was just a protester, a pro-Palestinian person out there shouting and screaming, and she was just a person. A police officer tried to escort her out of the way as best as possible, and you can see pictures we have everywhere, including at our website, inside our viewing here, about what's going on in the Crown Heights area, which is known for not being the best place for protest and speech, if you will. This is unacceptable. This is bad. This is wrong. This should not be happening. It should not be happening. Protests are fine, and kind of protests are fine, but the fact that people are attacking people that they think are protesting is problem number one. Number two, she wasn't even protesting. She was just there and trying to move around and see what's going on happening there. Everyone has the right. Most people in these states have the right to free speech. We know that's kind of a testy subject right now, but everyone has a right to basically say in general what they want to say and display what they want to display, as long as they're not displaying it literally in front of your nose and it doesn't actually affect you or physically harm you. You can have the thoughts and opinions you want to, even they're nasty, bad thoughts, as long as you're not necessarily, posing them out. You can think I'm a terrible person, which is fine, as long as you're not walking around smacking me in the head with sticks just because I'm wandering around because I'm a terrible person. That's where the line gets drawn officially. And when you're threatening my actual well-being, there's an issue where someone was stating their rights. There's Israeli security person out there stating their rights to speak, speaking pro-Israeli stuff, and someone they thought was an anti-Israeli got punished for it. Moving on to Wednesday stuff. On Wednesday, we tease Mark Carney, Karen Reid, Beyonce. That's the new Prime Minister of Canada. Karen Reid's trial going for a second time, and Beyonce and her concert tour not selling the big tickets or having a lot of low price tickets going forward. The big story of the day was, of course, Mark Carney getting the win in Canada's election, fueling by the hate, the anger, the rage of Trump by the Canadians. Now, Mark Carney isn't necessarily the prime minister yet. They still had to get a coalition, whatever, because they didn't get the full number of votes to have the full voting of parliament. But they got the most votes. They have the party that he leads is the Liberal Party, is the main party, and they get a chance to more or less be in charge. They just need other folks to coalesce with them going forward. It basically means everyone else has to sort of come together or nothing gets done, as the way parliament works. They will find ways to work out things with other folks, because in most cases, they're all sort of hating America right now. We're not liking America, not liking Trump specifically going forward. Mark Carney has a meeting with Donald Trump this week where they will have some pleasantries. They probably won't talk 51st state, although the press will ask that about that, to go forward, see what the future is going forward, because Carney leads the party, technically not prime minister because they have to have a few more extra votes. Also happening this week, there was a tiff between Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos because of tariffs. And because of tariffs. The Amazon Haul website, the knockoff of Temu and Shein, was going to put on its website basically the cost of the tariffs coming to you. This past week, a long-standing procedure that basically kept tariffs off things that cost less than $800, which is why things at Temu and Shein cost so little, because they don't get tariffs on all the cheap thing you buy, went away. So Temu and Shein have raised their prices. They raised their prices in anticipation. It's there. They have to make up the difference. Amazon Haul had a preliminary thought process to do something similar and add the prices that will be added on based on tariffs on the Amazon Haul site. Jeff Bezos says it was not going to be something on the main Amazon site, and that the Amazon Haul thing did not actually get approval. But with that leaking to the White House coming back and forth, White House just kind of blasted him for saying this as a hostile sort of action. Why is it hostile? Because tariffs aren't supposed to cost you anything extra. They're supposed to bring in extra money from these other countries. And the lie that it keeps being put off by the White House and the president that people don't pay tariffs. Tariffs aren't a tax on consumers. Tariffs bringing money from all these other countries who pay extra money is a lie. As I say often, that's not how tariffs work. This is an example of how tariffs work. Tariffs make things cost more money, and Amazon was going to show you how much more it was going to cost. Jeff Bezos said they were not doing it. They backed off. He went from there. And one of the funnier stories of the week, which should not be so funny, is the fact that the Navy lost its second aircraft as it fell off an aircraft carrier. This time it fell off. They were trying to maneuver away from some missiles, from some attacks by Houthi rebels. And in the process of trying to steer that big old ship, a aircraft that was not moored in, they were basically dragging it into its hangar, trying to get into the garage. It wasn't quite close enough yet. The ship swung, it got disconnected from its tow rope, and it fell into the bottom of the sea. This is the second fighter that they've lost in about a year or so. First one they actually shot down, which is bad. This one is more of a it happens, but $6-7 million in a fighter jet is an issue. So we will see how they recover from this one. Obviously, we're going to have to replace their jet. Going on to the Thursday stuff, things that happened on Thursday, stories that we posted on things you might have heard, include the teaser for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which was having threatening for funding. Shadur Sanders, again, this was the day we actually talked about the actual prank and the 8 million dimes. We'll definitely talk 8 million dimes coming forward. But one of the bigger stories for this week was that a lot of changes. Donald Trump has the right to change things as they need to do. And he has the right to basically kind of be a jerk about things and just move things around. But the mass amount of changes, mass amount of things that are happening are showing the scope of, I'm going to say, pettiness that Donald Trump is showing, is doing, and just, deflating the zone of all these things that are literally distractions to what's going on. So we can't focus, the collective we that want to just follow along and have a life. Or I should say the they, because we're not the we, the they that are legislators that want to either move on with their lives or progress on to, battle the Donald Trump stuff, either Democratic or Republican or it's third party. They can't do what they want to do if there's so many things to deal with, and most of them are distractions. The Holocaust Memorial Council had some shift this past week when Donald Trump actually dismissed several Biden level ever appointees because he can't. They are appointed to a span of time, and they should have been able to run out the clock on their time, but he pulled them early because he could. One of those people is the husband of former Vice President Kamala Harris, a man named Doug Emhoff. Doug Emhoff is actually Jewish. He's actually worked with Jewish foundations and Jewish charities for the bulk of his professional life. He has a lot of actual reason to be there. He's not just an appointee there, just sort of taking a slot to be important. He's actually done this thing. He's done the work. They being the administration, stated that the move aims to appoint members more aligned with the policies of the president, which makes sense. Critics argue that the action actually politicizes the Holocaust remembrance, moves away from remembering the time that was, as we had a very serious milestone remembrance this year. I think it was 80 this year, and just basically turns into another playground, something to play around with, so that Trump can give people who've done stuff for him something to basically, crow about. Emhoff and others that were ticked off expressed their concerns over potential implications of this council's work if people who are more amenable to what is the policies of the administration and what's going on. Now, there's a whole lot of talk about anti-Semitism and supporting Israel and things like that. But for the most part, it really seems to ring really hollow, as it's just a means to basically bully on folks that Trump doesn't like here in the States, not to really do anything to actually fix anything. North Korea actually this week had some numbers that were released, not by North Korea, but by South Korea, where they said about 5,000 troops in Ukraine have been injured or killed. The South Korean intelligence reports that the numbers around 47,000 troops have been injured or killed in Ukraine, who are not North Korean, who are fighting conscripted for the Russians in that conflict. That sounds like a lot of people, because it is. And these are the first numbers, official, if you will, coming from another agency, not from North Korea, who says, oh, yeah, we're helping out with some stuff, but not what stuff. And Russia, who says, oh, we're giving them some technology to modernize their actual actions. The big thing on this one, which is we should really, really worry about, is that North Korea has not done very much except for sending rockets into space that they say can carry ballistic missiles and or into the air. They can't get them in space. That's part of the problem. Just doing that stuff, blowing some rockets just to kind of literally rattle sabers, if you will, and just sort of being mean and jerky. Having troops that have some battle testing to them and know how to actually work around in battle and know how to use more modern weapons as opposed to the rocks and sticks they have there over there in North Korea may be an issue if there ever is a conflict with North Korea. We will see how that goes going forward. One more story for the day: the dimes. We'll do two stories here. First one was 8 million dimes, $800,000 worth of dimes spilled on a highway in Texas, which meant 14 hours of cleaning up dimes because $800,000 in dimes is still a lot of money. So two individuals sustained non-life-threatening injuries in an accident. The truck carrying the dimes hit another truck, and the dimes, which weren't contained, weren't sealed, were locked up in little boxes, just spilled across the highway. $800,000 worth. Also, some highway issues happening this week were in Alabama, where a kangaroo escaped, went down the highway, and people just started hitting each other, kind of escaping the kangaroo. In fact, the kangaroo wasn't really in much danger. They were just going down the highway, and just people just kept hitting each other. It is what happens when kangaroos go by. But Sheila, the kangaroo, yes, the kangaroo's name was Sheila, was safely returned to her owner, who owns a basically a pet farm. One of the animals there was this prize kangaroo. And wrapping up the week, we have the Friday stuff, Friday stories, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. This was kind of a interesting week to get through. So we only said 15 here. Of course, we teased on the day Mike Waltz, Stephen A. Smith, and Steve Smith Jr. or senior, so to say, the football player, on things happened there. But this was a week that had a lot of things going on. Many of them seemed just to be more conversational in just sort of, hey, that's up. A lot less things that were world on fire things this week, which we've had a lot of those going forward. But some of the turmoil, some of the back and forth, some of the mixture of things that happen will have more important things that we'll have to deal with later on. That's just something that we'll have. The biggest story of Friday turned out to be Mike Waltz, who was fired as the NSA director. Now, you can say not fired because he got another job. Essentially, early in the morning, it was announced that he would no longer be NSA director, not security advisor. And then later in the afternoon, Donald Trump said he was going to nominate to be U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, which is not, although that job, ambassador, needs to be confirmed, it is not a promotion. It is not even a lateral. It's pretty much a demotion in what's going on. And in the process, the comedy of errors that it became is that it gave Marco Rubio a fourth job to temporarily take over as NSA head going forward, which, as a reporter asked at the briefing at the State Department, asked the spokesperson there about the issue, told her that, well, I just now heard about this, so I'm sure we'll deal with that. As I guess we will. Mark Rubio basically has four full-time jobs in the government, and all of them. Moving on, we talked about Limestone University. It's an historic college. It's 180 years old or so, and it's losing its ground, its footing in South Carolina because it could not make payroll. Essentially, they put out for a campaign to raise $6 million to save itself for next semester. It only raised about $2 million. And the final commencement was yesterday for the college. The 180-year-old institution, citing what all institutions are seeing, but for the smaller ones, it becomes even more pronounced. Financial challenges, declining enrollment, and just how people are feeling about college these days. This is a special college because it's a liberal arts female college, so it's there's a bit more to that one. So its actual base of clientele a bit limited, but they decided instead of trying to just do online classes or hybrid classes to keep the tradition alive, they can't survive. So anyone who was still enrolled or was being worked with by as best as possible, everyone there to get them to another college, get them moving on as best as possible. All the people who are working there, of course, are working to find other positions. if one college closes and more colleges are in the same boats, it's going to be very hard for a lot of these people to find more jobs in their same careers. It's going to be a lot more people doing things that are gig like till they find their next gig, or something time to find that dream job or something else, or go to some move, or literally move someplace to find something else. This is something that is an issue, and based on how you see things in your neck of the woods, less colleges may be a good thing, because more kids go to trade schools, more kids go do things like that. There's more stuff going there, which is true. But less colleges isn't necessarily a great thing when it comes to these sort of things. And finally, because we weren't getting away from this one, this week, a man in Dothan, Alabama was arrested. 26-year-old Keon Marquez Hill. Mr. Hill was walking through town with a rocket propelled grenade launcher, a replica rocket propelled grenade launcher, but none the same, walking through town with an RPG, filming stuff for his social media stuff. He is charged with possession of a hoax destructive device, because it is, and just disruption. Authorities emphasize the seriousness of carrying such items in public, even if they're not real weapons, because people were a little worried about a man wandering the streets of Dothan, Alabama, with what looked like an RPG, because the TikToks. I need to click some TikToks, but yeah, this is a bit much. So this was a extremely dry, extremely really dry, because there wasn't any pictures. If I guess if I had pictures go along with it, I could have went through and pulled the pictures from the videos and did that stuff. That might have made it a little bit more interesting, and you can kind of follow along where the stories are. But this was a chance for me to actually put something out there to publish, to give my sponsors, give my partners a little bit of love on the day, because they deserve that, because we offer it every weekend. And to say I did do a roundup of stories. Maybe I'll do 15 in the future, because 3 each day works out better than trying to the 12 the top ones, which cuts out a day. Makes it a little longer, but it goes forward. Now, one of the reasons why we're saying there are changes coming forward is this is not one of the more popular replayed show going forward. We don't get a lot. Every so often, it will hit one that will just sort of skyrocket and turn into something that's viral and our means, but it just doesn't get that way. And so this is where I get to be a bit of my own personal counselor right here, my own personal bitch session of what's happening here. We want to present something that's consistent for the weekend. We don't want to do we were doing for a while a really quick hit, just reading the quick version. And we'll probably do something like that with 15 of them, which still goes about 30 minutes, if you will. 15 stories times 2 is 30 minutes. So if we do 2 minutes on a story, it takes that much time. It is what it is. But we don't get a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of things going forward. And this is not gathering the response that I'd like to get for collaboration. No one's seeing these things and saying, hey, Jay Cleveland's got some pretty good takes on this stuff. Let's do some collaboration on these things, which isn't happening. And so we're going to do some ideas. We don't have anything in stone yet, but ideas on changing to do things for some weekend stuff, to include the fact that for the next couple of weekends, it will be busy weekends. I will have packed weekends because of obligations, things going on. And it's great, because I should be doing more fun stuff on the weekend, or more stuff on the weekends. And for a while, when things were open, I had time to play around and do more of these things. Now that things are getting more full, maybe not as productive or as grandiose as I'd like to be, but continuing to do things on a consistent basis that are not working. We've had some lulls in time, some lulls in some things we worked out for all of our stuff. We were doing a very good swath, a very good time of staying consistent in earnings from YouTube views, to make sure we have consistent paychecks. In the last 2 months, not so happening. So we're not getting something consistent there. So that's going to be something there. You may see me asking for things more often because of that. We've had views that were consistent, and we've done some changes where we actually found a way to get some AI tools that we had in the back pocket to do some clips and do some shorts to get more views to things. But the actual, while it looks like more views, and YouTube specifically is adding all views as equal views, they're not adding all views as equal money. A good take for a good, well-watched video that I have, that maybe 2.5 minutes of a news clip, can earn, in general, $2.50 on my end. So that's what I'm earning, $2.50 on a good video on a good couple days going forward. a good run for a short, which may outpace the other things by tens of views because it just might do that, may earn 20 cents if we're lucky. Most cases, 15 to 10. That's what's happening. So as I talk in these things that no one's watching on the live right now, and no one probably watched this far inside of the actual replays, we need some help. We need support. We need things going on to go forward. There's another way to say it, but say it. Your favorite folks online who are all doing the things, are all doing the commentary, all doing whatever, they have more viewers. They've been doing this longer, maybe, or they get more people going on, and they have more viewers. So they have more links, more people seeing what's going on. They ask for support via their Patreons, via their memberships, things going on, and people do that. They ask for super chats, they ask for donations, ask for things like that, and they get those. We're not getting that. And so because we're not getting that, there are things we can't do consistently because I've got to pay actual bills, and I got to pay other bills, and I got to pay these bills, and I got to spend the time with this. And this takes time. And the more effort you put into something to make it a little bit better, that means if it doesn't pay back in a dividend, it's just more effort being put in something that spends more time, energy, and money, more resources, if you will. So my quick gripe session is, and it's live and no one's watching it, so where's it going, is that we need more support. We need more help. We are looking for more people who be partners, looking more people to go to our website and to go to the sponsors page and click on the sponsors page, allow us to offer you up things for other people, and you pay them what you're going to pay them. We get a small commission for just bringing you in there. Our sponsor for the weekend is, of course, Ground News. This is theconversationproject.com/Ground News. If you've been here before, if you've been here this long, you know what Ground News is. It's a great website, great app, great project, great thing to use to get the full story on any news story, because you get the full stories, all news stories from all angles. You don't just get your Fox News version or your Newsmax version, if that's what you watch all the time. You get, or the CNN version, MSNBC version, if that's what you watch all the time. You get to see what the other sides are showing. And the blind spot feature allows you to see literally what one side does not want you to see. You can get 40% off their Vantage plan. That's a full plan for all the great news they get, all the great features. And they don't take on any sponsorships. They only take your subscriptions for people to pay for. And most of the things they offer are free. They give you a rating of who covers what, how they cover it, and what's being said by all sides, local, national, and of course, international. So check out our sponsor all the time, and the one we spotlight all weekend long at Ground News. And you can find them at it's a conversationproject.com/Ground News. We go to that link and use our link to pay for your subscription. We get a small commission for that one. So that helps. Go into our site for sponsors at our website, small commissions for all of them. It helps things go on. Being a partner, joining on with Harold Braxton, Colby Green, and Elliot Kidd for this one is a great thing to do. And it helps us get things going. Watching us and not skipping ads on YouTube, on Facebook, on X helps out as well. So following us on our feeds there so that you can see more of our videos and, of course, engage in the stories, the headlines that we have there. That's how we get these stories to talk about. Oh, I didn't talk about that. So we call this a dialogue because this is not just me going through the rundown of stories that are trending in the moment and then pulling those and then pulling down there. We do use some chat GPT to get some headlines written and get some editing done. So sometimes the computer does get to be in its whole lying self. But what we do is we post headlines all day, all night, all the time, every 50 minutes or so on Facebook and X. Facebook.com/This Conversation Project, X.com/TH_conversation. And what this is you get a chance to engage in the news stories throughout the day. And so in the morning, we give you a roundup of stories from the past 30 hours or so to let you know what stories you guys thought were conversational, stories you thought were worthy of chatting up. We're big there. Based on how the stories go throughout the day, because things change, things update. Since I'm not like a news outlet while I'm just producing news all day, in the mornings, Monday through Friday, we give you things you might have heard for those updates. And so on a week where Mike Waltz got fired and then got rehired and Marco Rubio got rehired, stuff like that. Three stories in one that were basically doled out in three separate issues. We didn't have a chance to go sort of grow that throughout the day. We had to put it all together in the morning. There's that. But we also mix that story with Sheila the kangaroo stopping traffic or causing traffic accidents in Alabama. Very conversation, interesting story that you may have missed based on your news coverage and when you popped in and out of the news, because news isn't really covered the way it used to be. It just isn't. It just does not work that way. So what we don't present, as I look to my left, Reese Waters doing commentary every day on things like that, which is very well produced, very well written, and I respect something like that. That's not what I'm producing, fortunately or unfortunately. There's not a lot of edits, not a lot of jump cuts. Yes, a lot of hitting this cough button over here because I swallow air and have reflux, and this week had some serious health scares with some spasms that essentially meant I could have been dying at the moment. Those have hopefully been cleared up at this point. But this is what we provide. This is what we do. This is the fun stuff. I would love to have more time to interview more people, chat more with you likely, and have you chat with me here inside of this stuff. You're not here in the live chat. Therefore, we can't chat things up. I can't pause and go back and forth. I'm not Don Lemon with his following going back and forth. And I have respect for Don Lemon, what he does, and I have some disagreements for how he does stuff. But for him, it's making him money, going back and forth. So there's that. There is many things I would love to do. I have a day job. I have a family to spend time with. I have some other obligations, some of them more pronounced. I will say that in a way to make myself feel good. Some of them are just things that got to get done. Just got to be done, and just to be done, and they get neglected based on other things. And while it's fun to sit in front of this camera and that camera, and two cameras over here and a camera in the bag over there, and talk in front of this microphone, and I think I have a fairly good grasp of news coverage as a actual journalist, and of news commentary as a person with brains in my head, and as a person who can produce these things in a fairly good manner. When you don't get the response, don't get the coverage, don't get people talking about it, you're talking to the woods and no one hears the sound. The sound is made, vibrations are out there, but no one hears it because you have to hear it to know what happens. It is what it is. At some point in time, I'll probably have to just stop doing this, to be honest. I just have to, because it's a financial burden, it's a time burden, it's things that can be put to other things. Unfortunately, it's sort of a hobby thing that I love to do. The issue is not, I don't believe, my talent. The issue is opportunity. Everybody that has the talent to do something does have the opportunity to go there. If we talk about RK Stadium here before, if there's a concert open date on one day, even if Taylor Swift and Beyonce want that date, only one's getting that date. And chances are your band is playing the covers at the club down the street on weekends, every other weekend, is not getting that spot at all. Opportunity makes a difference. And they may be just as good. They may have great talent, but they just aren't in position to take that on. I want to take more things on. I believe I'm ready to take on some things. I think other things I'm ready to step up to and do. But there are limitations. There are a lot of things getting in the way. Cash is one, time is the other, energy is a third one, but it really turns into the whole opportunity. If you know somebody who would like to do more collaboration for things news-wise, let me know. And I'm saying this in a serious manner because, like, I had this one promotion back in the day in my days of producing things for the internet, where I offered up ad spots for people into a newsletter, and it was the cheesiest, dumbest things being put out there. Like, and it was extremely cheap. It was like $5 a spot for something like that. And somebody wanted some really dumb thing. It had to be really long and really spammy, whatever. And it was just ridiculous. It was obviously somebody was taking advantage of it, and it did not last out. It's not the Heinz or the Berkshire Hathaways, although they don't advertise things like that. The big companies who are advertising stuff. It's just people out there sort of, literally taking advantage of stuff and spamming people. I could use some help. I could use a lot of help. If you think it's worthy, then please reach out and see what we can do. Email me at the conversation inbox gmail.com or jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. Be honest, because no one's probably going to see this because it's gone so long or whatever. This is literally a spitting in the ocean. It's a shot in the dark. It's nothing. And so if that's the case, I get comments here or there. I get a lot of responses. I get things that say, "Hey, this is great. You're going to do great at some point in time." Some point in time needs to be kind of sooner than later. Side note: I've been watching this creator who's been working for about 2.5 years or so. He is a guy who was a who cashed out on a big time deal, some tech deal he had, whatever, cashed out, whatever, and had time to kill. So he decided to take his wisdom to the internet and make a YouTube channel and become a social media person. And he put a lot of effort, energy into it, and doing all the things that he saw and I see, or what we see as what the people who do these things actually do. And him being a more or less unknown in the widespread of things, he was just going to put out the videos, make them look just like people did, sound like people did, have the same sort of pull into you with great insight and his own personal thing, and see what happened. And he's failing. And he stopped, and now he's doing sort of a failure tour where he's talking about how the things he thought would work are not working, and the business he thought he'd be gathering, being an influence, if you will, is not a great business. He's not hurting for money. He's not hurting for things to do. He has other things that are keeping him and his family very well taken care of. But this one thing here, which should have been a very simple thing, spend some time talking on a camera for a couple hours, getting someone to edit it, putting it out there, and having people sort of respond to it, and growing that base, growing that mindset of folks to follow along hand and do whatever, isn't working as well. Being Alex Hormozy isn't as easy as it looks. It's not just putting on a tank top, putting on a nose thing, and saying things that seem like obvious stuff until enough people listen to you and pay you money to do stuff for them, for you to overtake and become sort of the overtaken thing. Being a Tony Robbins, even in this day and age, is not as easy as it looks. The process is simple. I have for over 30 years produced content. Now I'm producing even better content, even more rational content, even more catchy content. Along the same vein, I've been doing it as long as I've seen Tony do it and said, "Hey, I can do this too," and just doing it, starting off from a just sort of a aping, just sort of a copying standpoint, seeing how I could do it just like him, and then getting my own wisdom, my own knowledge, and turning it into my own thing, my own point of view. No one's looking up for me for Tony Robbins type interviews. Nobody's asking me to do TED Talks. No one's doing anything on those levels there, including the fact that I know people who do public speaking and do promotional stuff in spots here or there who, I talk about collaborations and they don't come to fruition. That is a very big hit to my own ego, but it also could be saying other things going forward. As I said, I've talked for about 15 minutes after I did the news stories, knowing in this window of time, no one tuned in and watch it live, and no one's watching this here. So the task of talking 50 minutes on a live is here. I did that. Congratulations, Jay Cleveland. You did that today. Saying things that really didn't make much difference. You did that as well too. So that happened. But we're going to start doing some changes. This is not the normal video that I produce for the sponsors. We'll do that later. They'll get their video going forward, as I really will cry my beer and talk about things that aren't going right around here going forward. But we're looking to do some shifting, do some changes, do some other things. In reality, we need to do less, because doing more is not getting us more results. It's just getting us more tired. Is the reality of what's going on. And so we're looking at ways to downsize is not the word, because it's mostly me. I hadn't had enough spare change to really bring other people into things. Plus, I found some tools that I had, or tools that was in the toolbox that help out in some editing, in some things, and some processes to make things work out a little better. But working out better also means more time, more energy, more process. We don't do a lot of editing, because editing means stopping, taking time to do stuff. So we do make things as best to live to tape or live as possible. This has been the best live I've done in a while. Less long talk I've done in anything, live to whatever, because I think I may have stopped 3 times, maybe just 2 times, in presenting the news stories. And that was even while I was, pulling them up clicking and pulling them up here going forward. I don't have a script going forward. I didn't have to stop to breathe or burp or do anything except for twice to hit this cough buttons, maybe 3 times in the actual presentation of the 15 stories. Getting lost in the stories is one thing, but not having to stop and pause in the middle is over. And as I say that, I got a little tickle coming. So I got to take a sip to alleviate that. But what we have for this here, not looking for tears, not looking for sadness. We're looking for some ideas. Email me at the email address, the conversation inbox, gmail.com. Email me at jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. Reply to the video or something. If it sticks around, I'll go to the replies, whatever. We need to do some changes. We're producing pretty good content, producing very intelligent news coverage. I'm not out there in the field. I'm just aggregating from other folks and looking through stories, watching other people's perspectives, getting a full view, and then giving what commentary I have. The irony is that most of my commentary is anti-Trump or anti-association with Trump, anti-this administration, if you will, because I see the things he does as not so great. And the bulk of the responses I get, because maybe it's trolls, are pro-ish Trump stuff. We do a lot of stories that are Trump and administration related because they are the most important, more serious things going on, should be the most conversational things going on because the implications in the now and the going forward, and they just go great for back and forth and back and forth. But most of the commentary I get is from and I think conservative because I think I'm conservative. Most of the commentary I'm getting is coming from a MAGA view for folks that's saying like, yeah, we should take all the rights away, do all the stuff we want to because the president gets that right to do. And there's safeguards, make sure things like that don't happen. Because when one person gets the right to press a button and do what they want to, we have problems. We have issues, which we do. And we'll always have problems and issues, but we have serious problems when one person defines us all. Because that one person defines us all the way that person wants to, the way that person wants to, and it doesn't really define a plurality of us, even not a majority of us, just, the guys that he wants to look like, then we have issues. All right, so I've got a whole full day to get along to. It's not very late. It's very early still on this Sunday morning. So there's a lot of things to do today. We're going to call it basically a free day, if you will. But there's a lot of things I'm going to do for catch-up stuff today. So there'll probably be some video work or some other podcast work because I'm a bit behind in some of those other projects to help fund the other parts of that. But for those of you who may stumble on this one and somehow stumbled to 52 minutes and 45 seconds worth of this, I thank you very much. I appreciate you. For those who don't, who won't hear this, may watch other things. You may not hear this, but thank you. Every person, every little bit, every extra effort to this thing is a blessing. And I treat it like that. The ability to speak, have the funds to buy these gadgets in front of me and have a camera in front of me, have the ability of freedom of speech to put this thing out here and not have it flagged as something to be taken down. Maybe because I'm not popular enough. Maybe the issue is no one can see me, so no one cares. Sometimes just ability to speak, ability to do a thing, to prove that you can do it is enough. Unfortunately, we've proved it. We've got proof. We've got the working knowledge. We got the way things work. Now we got to make it profitable. We got to make it meaningful. We got to have words that people are looking to and listening to, and people need to care. Maybe we got to stop playing nice. That's all I got. Thank you.